So here is a plot of what the Gabor filters look like. So here we have selected two different scale values, lambda equal to 20 and lambda equal to 40, and we use a discretization of 45 degrees. So as we discussed earlier, theta equal to 0 corresponds to this Gabor filter, where the normal to the parallel stripes, the orientation of this normal is 0 degrees. Similarly, here is a Gabor filter at 45 degrees. In some implementation, this may be considered as 45 degree. In some implementation, this may be considered 45 degree. So when we discuss the theta, we assume that this is our positive x-axis and this is our positive y-axis. But if you change the axes, if this is the x and this is y, then this will become 135 degree and this will become 45 degree. So in our convention, where we assume that this is this is positive x-axis and this is positive y-axis, this Gabor filter corresponds to theta equal to 45 degree. This one over here corresponds to theta equal to 90, and this one corresponds to theta equal to 135 degrees. Similarly, here we have theta equal to 0, theta 45, 90 and 135 at different scale. So you can see with lambda being larger, we can select the slowly varying textures. For example, if the texture is fastly varying, for example, it contains high frequency, then we can see we would be needing too many parallel stripes to actually compute the orientation of that texture to capture the semantics of that texture. But if the texture is slowly varying, then we will need larger scale, that is lambda being higher, which means that the frequency being lower, because this Gabor filter will capture the semantics of a texture that has low frequency. So again, we won't talk about the frequency, because in this course as we decided, we won't be going into the frequency domain because that then goes into pure image processing, and we don't want to deal with that. We just want to focus our attention to the computer vision and robotic applications. So here is a Gabor filter at different scales and at different orientations. So as we discussed earlier in the lectures, we convolve the image with the bank of Gabor filters, whether we are sort of doing vanishing point detection or whether we are computing the gist descriptor of an image. We have to convolve the image with the bank of Gabor filter. And as you can see over here, to capture the semantics of textures at different scales, for example, we may have texture in the image, or we may have a feature in an image. So if the feature is slowly varying, then we'll need the Gabor filter at lower frequency, that is at higher wavelength. And if the texture or the feature is fast varying, that is it has high frequency components, then we'll need the Gabor filter at high frequency, that is at a reduced wavelength. So wavelength lambda is directly proportional or inversely proportional to the frequency. So here we can see that effect as well. For example, the gap over here is larger as compared to the gaps over here. So this denotes that it would be good for capturing the slow varying features or the slow varying texture in an image. So this is the reason why we vary theta to capture the features or texture at varying orientation, and also simultaneously we would also like to capture the semantics of features or texture at different scales, and that is why we have different scale parameter as well. Typically we work with 4 different lambda values, and we have 18 different orientations. And as we discussed, for the vanishing point detection algorithm, we just see which theta produces a max response among all the different scales, and that is the orientation of the texture or the feature point in an image. And for computation of the gist descriptor, we will now see like how we can convolve the image with the bank of Gabor filters to compute the gist descriptor. And also in the previous lecture, we discussed that convolving the Gabor filter with the images in the frequency domain is going to be a computationally very expensive process, and that is why we use a convolution theorem. So we compute the fast Fourier transform of the signal and the filter, and then we use a convolution theorem to compute the spatial domain convolution by doing the multiplication of the frequency domain. So this completes the discussion of the mathematical formulation of the Gabor filter. We have described how we can even use the Gabor filter for computing the vanishing points in images. We've also seen graphically what the Gabor filter looks like like what the Gabor filters look like at different scales and different orientations. And now we will focus our attention back to GIST descriptors and how GIST descriptor use a Gabor filter bank to compute the global description of an image.